Hey everybody, welcome. Thanks for waiting. We were definitely, I say we, but it's all me having some technical difficulties here. So appreciate you bearing with me while we're getting started. I'm excited to get going and show off some of the clips and stuff that I've been excited to show. But first, I'm just trying to make sure that this is actually working because I'm very concerned. So there we go. Yeah, I see comments coming in. Okay, so we are off and running now, and things are going to start firing like crazy, so apologize for that. But yeah, welcome. Thank you for joining me on this nice, beautiful afternoon in San Diego. We got some nice, here at least we have some nice 70-degree weather, and then, but we are getting the full SoCal experience because we've got the, light ash flurries coming in from some of the local wildfires, so it's an exciting day, but for those of you who are joining us, let me know where you're joining from, and let me know what kind of weather you're enjoying where you're at. Awesome, glad everybody can hear. Yeah, I know it's crazy, some of the stuff that we are... Go looking back at some of the different videos and things that I've done, how long it actually has been that I've been posting videos. It's really cool that people keep coming back and watching, and that, we've been going strong for a while now. I do have siblings. I actually have 5 siblings. I come from a very big family, and one of my siblings does a lot of the animating with me, and then also one of my siblings was really involved in doing a lot of the voices and things like that. So, yes, absolutely. All right. But yeah, welcome everybody. I wanted to kick things off by showing actually the trailer the original trailer for Justice League versus Avengers, to give everybody a little reminder. This was posted, I made the trailer back in 2015, so it was about 10 years ago now, but we had only had it posted on Facebook, so I wanted to actually show it here, and so without further ado, I'm going to get going with that, and then I'll dive into some of the stuff that I wanted to show off. So again, thanks for hanging out, and let's kick things off here with the original, now 10-year-old Justice League versus Avengers trailer.
The Avengers and the Justice League are divided. Now is the time to strike.
We will drain the life from their bodies and cast aside their cold, dead corpses to rot.
Wow, that was really dark.
So those of you who know me or have been following for a while have probably heard me talk a decent amount about the series. But for anybody who's unfamiliar, to give you a little overview, the Justice League versus Avengers is a kind of parody series that we wrote back. We actually started writing back in 2013 and then started filming it was either February or March of 2014. And so it'll be in production for 11 years now, coming up in a month or two. But it's just an absolutely massive script that we wrote. It is 90 pages, or 93 pages long if we take a look at the actual screenplay here. And so it was pretty ambitious undertaking. We've recorded a good amount of it, and we're now working on A, shooting the final scenes, and then B, getting the editing, of course, all together is a big part of it right now. So unfortunately, I haven't done nearly as much of the actual animating recently, looking to get back into that soon, but I have been doing a fair amount of editing, and I hit a really big milestone. I had been doing a lot of work on different mouth techniques for animating the characters' mouths and things like that, and so I've been able to finish up some of those scenes, and I'm excited to show them off. And yeah, Hitchhiker's Pie. I know coming soon. It was a little bit of a joke at this point. I think I am going to actually post that clip on YouTube after this, and then I'm just going to label it as the original 2014 trailer or 2015 trailer, so everybody knows the irony of coming soon. But so what part of what I wanted to do, since I've had a focus on editing, was just take you through a little bit of what the process looks like to get some of these scenes together. And so one of the things that I've done is put together scenes with put together a few scenes from the show that that are in various stages of completion. So this first one that I want to show here was actually it's from a car chase sequence. This is one of the relatively latest scenes that we've shot, but this is just like a very rough cut format. So what I mean by that is that we literally took the frames. I just dropped them here into a Premiere timeline to get kind of the sense of timing. You'll see as we go through it, there's some basic effects on to get the timing of what we want to do, but it's pretty much just the raw animation that we took and then with the audio, since all of the audio is recorded and we do animate with audio. So let's check out this car chase from one of the later episodes of Avengers versus Justice League. So you can see there's still visible wires and things like that. All of that gets taken out later on in the post process.
Oh no.
Good call on the bad driving, Capsicle. How'd you know?
Well, he's a man, isn't he?
So one of the running jokes in the series is that Captain America is very old school. So he's constantly embarrassing the other members of the Avengers and saying things he shouldn't, which was one of the fun jokes to both write in and record. So that's basically where the process starts. Is we shoot it, we lay it all out in a situation like that, and then we start to get into more and more customization. So I have a couple scenes here. One, it was relatively experimental, and I'll show that one off first. It's in some respects in a bigger state of completion, because then what happens is a lot of these shots get processed through After Effects. So one of the things that you'll notice, just to get into geeky things, is this is actually a full resolution image that we look at in the completely raw cut, so it's not cropped down to like a 16:9 or anything like that. So part of the process basically is taking each of these shots, we run it through After Effects, add any kind of effects that we need to. I do stabilization to the video. I've experimented with some different things, like adding, you might not be able to see it on this size screen, but I can, actually, you're not seeing my screen at all, my apologies. But let's see if I can show a better view of it. But anyway, I've tried doing things like, was very inspired by the Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse movies. So I did some like halftone dot patterns and just some experimentation with things like that. But we add all of the little accents, like, swear clouds. We'll go through and I'll take out all of the rigs. So when people are jumping or flying through the air, like you'll see later in this scene, all of those get digitally removed. Like this scene here where we have this giant object flying through the air, there's obviously a support system under this, so that's all the rig removal and things like that I'll do. These light flares, for instance, are added in post, and then so just tons of work like that, also with the colors to make sure everything matches up and works well together. And then one of the things that I was experimenting with is that I really wanted more kind of character to the different characters than what I'd been able to achieve with kind of just the flappy open mouth, closed mouths. So again, if anybody's been watching my content for a while, what we had traditionally done was to make it look like mouths were moving was we had kind of added this paint over top of the characters' mouths to basically go in like an open closed fashion. And so I really wanted to start experimenting with more of like a phonetically shaped mouth, like traditional animation. But that involved learning a lot of new techniques, like removing the background behind mouths and things like that. So I'll take you through a little bit of what that process looks like later. But just wanted to point out some of the things that go into building up these various scenes. Another thing that I was experimenting with is the different type of effects and accents and things like that we wanted to add on top of it. So, yes, Seth, sorry, I was not seeing the screen. I need at least another monitor here going on. And Esmeralda, you asked what timeline we're looking at releasing now. Well, we'll get more into that in a little bit, because that is a very interesting question. But first, before we get deep into that, let's go ahead and run this next clip. This fight scene. Again, one thing that's lacking completely is that there's no audio, so you'll just have to imagine the sound effects and compelling music in place for the time being.
Curse this blasted hammer! I cannot lift it.
Me neither, chap, but at least I can do this.
Ah, indeed. Because a levitating hammer is so useful to us.
As they say on Earth, brother, you truly are a number 2.
What? What does that even mean?
Poop.
What?
Defecation! Let him go, Magnadoodle.
Ah, come to rescue your boyfriend. How very sweet of you.
He's not my boyfriend.
This is proving more difficult than the time I had to fight Wolverine. Stop clawing yourself. Stop clawing yourself. Oh, look, you're healing.
So there you go. There's an example of one of the scenes. Again, this one was heavily experimental. You can see there was some different styles with the graphics and things like that we're putting in. But that's a relatively complete scene of, color correction, effects, rig removal. So really mostly finished except for the sound in that type of situation. And that's actually one of the first scenes that I edited, and I specifically chose that one because I wanted to do experimentation and work on how some of the fight scenes would look, and so that was a good opportunity to get in and experiment with that without it being one of the most pivotal fight scenes in the movie. Because that's one of the approaches that we've taken with this show along, is that we knew that it was such a massive undertaking that we were going to learn a lot along the way. So we have very deliberately saved some of the more challenging and some of the really pivotal scenes for later on in the process, so that we would have the opportunity to really put our learnings into place as we were going along. With that said, I'd like to jump into some of the questions that we have here. So I've got a question here from, let's see. Well, I want to bring it in, but I've got a question from Teddy, and he would like to know who I personally like better between the Justice League and Avengers. I think that's a pretty big question. That's tough to answer. I used to have very long hair, and I would get called, and then I was actually before the Thor movies, but I would get called Thor a lot when when the movie came out, and it's given me a very special place in my heart for Thor as one of my very favorite heroes, and especially the later Thor movies. So I think Thor might be a favorite superhero. But overall, I've been partial to DC and the Batman storyline. Although, again, it's hard if you're comparing movies or comics. You could go a million ways with that question. But I'd say overall, I would probably have to say DC is my favorite, specifically Batman, Superman. But it's hard to go wrong there. And then let's see. Esmeralda had asked if there is a Lego Batman 3 in the works. There is not one in the works at the time being. This is always one of the first things to come up when we open up for questions. And we would absolutely love to do a third Lego Batman installment at some point. In fact, we do plan to. It's just a matter of how badly we want to get this show finished up and out for everyone to see before we move on to another Batman again. And with that in mind, Esmeralda also asked what the release timeline was looking like at this point. And there's the short answer, which nobody likes, is that we don't have an exact date in mind yet. But one of the things that's really cool, I was sitting down and looking through exactly what we had shot the other day and kind of taking inventory and things, and I realized that we're missing basically the opening 2 scenes, and then after that we have everything shot through. There's the scene that we're working on, which is like scene 20, and then we have everything shot through like I believe it's like in the 70s, and there's about 83 scenes altogether. So that being said, when we get that final, when we do get those first 2 scenes shot, we're going to be able to start bringing in, we're going to really be able to start releasing the episodes pretty soon after that, because the editing definitely goes a lot faster than the animating itself. And so, while we don't have anything exact to say, I'm really hoping that we can, around this time next year, we could start releasing some of the first episodes. And in the meantime, I'd really like to keep doing more and more things like this, where I'm maybe showing a little bit of what I'm working on with the editing or things like that. And you guys can get more and more exposure to what we're building, so that you can see some of the final pieces as they come together. Let's see. It looks like we have some other feedback on the. Seth says that the Justice League is definitely better, but see, don't think we're too biased, because we definitely tried to represent the Avengers well. You can remember we wrote this in 2013, so Avengers were all the rage, and those movies were, that was, I think, post Christopher Nolan Batman. So the Avengers movies were infinitely better than all of the Justice League ones to follow. So we definitely do them justice still. Esmeralda asks what some things were that inspired us during the writing process. It was just fandom for the DC and Marvel movies that were coming out, as well as our love for comics and wanting to work in like a bunch of like really nerdy jokes and stuff like that. That was one of the things that was fun to work in, is just as many references to actual DC and Marvel comics as we could get in that made sense with the story. Also, big inspirations were the 90s cartoons. So things like Batman the Animated Series, the Spider-Man cartoons that were out, X-Men. There were all kinds of ones. All of those cartoons that kind of we grew up on, we wanted to kind of pay homage to that. And so definitely the writing style, we brought a very villain of the week approach, while still having an overarching story and things like that. So I would really say that the 90s cartoons plus just our love for the comics is where a lot of the inspiration came from. Hitchhiker. Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see the gun version this year. I'm hoping that they can get back to making some pretty entertaining stuff. You know, the other thing that I have to say is, as much as I did not want to see Robert Pattinson in a Batman movie, the Batman was also actually a really good, really good movie. There's, you know, even some respects that I think it was, you know, there's a healthy debate over, you know, the best of the Christopher Nolan version films versus like the Batman. So I really enjoyed that one too. Oh, so Sam wants to know if we're partial to the villains or heroes. Let's see. I think in this series, I'm partial to the villains. The villains were so much fun. We did a lot with them. You know, even if we had just a lot of fun characteristics and stuff that we tried to do with it, and we didn't try to do like a faithful approach, so to speak, necessarily. We were tried to make it entertaining. So we did lots of fun things like this, like, you know, Loki's mad all the time, and we have him doing cape flips every time he gets mad, and just in general, the villains are all pretty ridiculous and silly and immature. So definitely in this series, I think the villains were some of the most fun to write and record. But I mean, everything. It's all been fun. I say that, and then I start thinking about, you know, things that we did with like the character of Batman and all kinds of stuff. So we had a lot of fun with everything. But if I had to choose, I'm going to go villains on that one. So Esme asks if we are working on anything besides the show. And yeah, actually that is one of the things that I've been working on recently, is I have a couple other projects, just like short animation things that I've been wanting to do, just to get, first of all, like, Seth does a lot of the animation in the show. And so I wanted to really get back up to speed and get hands-on again with the animation, so that I could take a bigger role in animating again. And then otherwise, I also just wanted to have some projects that I could put out at a little bit of a sooner pace than what we'd be able to get the show done. So I'm working on like a little just quick 17-second comedy animation that's Star Wars related. It's a tribute to Gold Leader from the original Star Wars movie. And then I've also had in the works for a little while, it's a fun little kind of Who's on First type sketch that takes place in Cloud City. And both of those are pretty short, and I'm actually working on wrapping those up, because I'd love to get those posted here in the near future. So let's see here. I want to get to Hitchhiker's question too, because I like that one. So Hitchhiker asks, is there a particular scene or piece of animation that I'm most proud of, either in Justice League versus Avengers or something else that we've made? So I think I love that question. It's fun, because then I get to go brag. I think that one of the things with animation is that we're always trying to push the boundaries of what we're doing. So I'm always going to say that in a lot of respects, one of the things that I'm most proud of are going to tend to be my more recent projects, just because that's always where I'm pushing the limits of what I want to do, testing out new things and all of that good stuff. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a double answer to that one, because I wanted to start by showing some of the things that I have done that I'm most proud of that are finished, and then I can maybe talk a little bit about what I'm actually working on. So my runner-up with that one is the Batman Rebuilt and Batman Reassembled. Obviously, I'm really proud of. They're my most popular videos by far. scenes like the car chase that we have here, and then especially the end fight sequence, well, everything that took place kind of in the warehouse, and then ultimately the fight with Nightwing. This was a really cool accomplishment that we were really happy with the way it came out. But again, it's interesting down to look back on it because we did this without any animation software or things like that. And so definitely the quality of what we were able to do with the animations took a big jump. Took a big jump when we were able to start using capture software and things like that. And so so in that sense, there's been some things that I've, really been happy about what we were able to do. I think of, again, my completed ones, my second place would actually be Gunfight at the OK Corral. Again, this one was shot before animation software or anything like that. Especially the sequence where they all kind of face off in the actual gun battle of it all. But what really makes this one stick out as one of my favorites, I mean, not only is it one of my more popular videos, but I get the coolest comments on it of people like who, and I mean this in a positive way, but like who almost get emotional watching it and talk about how it, reminds them of childhood and playing with Lego and like acting out scenes like this. And, that's part of the reason that I love doing this animation. Is like I very much get that feeling from making these videos and like making these come alive. And so to kind of like share that experience with people, I think is really, really cool. And just so for again, the comments and nostalgia I get on this one, I would say this is one of my proudest pieces. And definitely the actual gun battle section was tons and tons of fun to film, especially as a big Western fan. But I genuinely think of the things that I've posted, the genuine best piece of animation is probably our Force Awakens shot by shot trailer that we did. And if I were to pick a specific moment in this one, I would choose, I'd have to choose when we did the Millennium Falcon flip around, because this is 100% stop motion. Like there's not anything else going on. So we actually shot the background plate with the sand with stop motion, the Millennium Falcon flipping over, and then we actually had little mini versions of the TIE fighters that went by. And so that was pretty fun to pull off, and I really was happy with the way that that it came out. So I think of the things that I've posted, probably those. I'm super stoked about some of the things that we have in the works right now. For instance, one of the Gold Leader series the little short that I'm working on, I did some things like I actually did stop motion backgrounds of the trench and then projected them on monitors behind the thing, so there's no compositing. Like for instance, there's stars flying by in the background. So I'll get into that whole one more when I show it to you. But I'm really excited to show off some of that stuff and the new techniques we've been learning. And then overall, I would say, it has to be Justice League versus Avengers just for the sheer scale of what we're able to pull off. And then there's a bunch of sequences. But I think the one, if you're asking a single scene or sequence, the one that would be most excited, just off the top of my head, is that there's this giant fight that takes place in Arkham Asylum, and it's funny, and it came out really cool, and that one is one that I'm really, really stoked to show off. Yeah, sorry, I got excited by your question, so I definitely thought way too much about it and then put in a lot of detail with the answer, but yeah, absolutely. Esmeralda says that she would like to point out that we decided to go Will Arnett for Batman before Lego did. Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because again, this was written in 2013, so this is way before this is before even like trailers had dropped for the Lego movie. And so the character of Batman, when we sat down and were writing it out, we were like, oh, it should be basically like, like Archer from the Archer series meets Will Arnett from Arrested Development. And and then they actually cast Will Arnett, of course, as the voice of Batman and that. So, but there's a lot of things that we did. All of the jokes that will seem like they were ripped off from the Lego movie were actually written before we ever saw it. So Seth, I'm curious, since we have Seth, my sibling who does a lot of the animation with me in the chat, I'm curious, what would you say is your favorite or animation that we've worked on? Oh yeah, Hitchhiker. What you're saying about mistakes is absolutely the case. There's so many things that you can gloss over and get away with, that even rewatching it will bug me, but nobody else ever knows. Seth and I actually had a running joke too, that whenever we'd like animation messed up, we'd just like put somebody grunting in there and they'd just be like, oh yeah, it was intentional. So we've even slipped that one in a couple times as an inside joke. Yeah, Seth says Batman reassembled, particularly parts we filmed out here in San Diego together. Because that's the cool thing about a few of the animations that we did is Batman Rebuilt. We sat down and we filmed in like a week. If you give me the time code, I'll show it. But so Batman Rebuilt we cranked out in about 2 weeks, which is actually pretty crazy looking back on it now. Batman Reassembled, Seth shot parts of it, and he was living in Texas at the time. But then we shot a bunch of it out here in a couple weeks together, which was a lot of fun. And kind of same thing for Gunfight at the OK Corrals. I actually traveled to Texas, and that one was like more like a month because of all the intricate sets and stuff. But it was a lot of fun. All of those that are kind of just marathon shoots, kind of hold a special place in my heart because it's fun to work like that in my book. But I really want to, before we wrap up here, I want to show off one more scene. This one is actually from very early on in the series, so you'll see it, whenever we start releasing, you'll see this one relatively early. The Justice League and Avengers are in court because they are literally fighting over who is the best superhero team locally at the time. And so I chose this scene to edit early on because, again, some of the things I alluded to or I talked about earlier with the wanting to do the mouth movement. So this scene has a lot of the characters speaking, and so I thought it would give me an opportunity to go through and really practice and perfect doing these mouth animations the way I wanted to. So I want to show off that scene, this is the one that I just wrapped up like about a week ago, and I'm super stoked. This is basically in the can, again, with some... with the exception of that I need to do a little bit of the audio stuff. As I said before, none of these have sound effects. And then I think this one needs maybe some minor color correction to make a few of the shots match, but there's even been some basic color correction on it. And I'll walk you through some of what I did with this scene, but I'm really excited to show it off. And this is kind of what inspired me to... finishing up the scene was what inspired me to really want to do this Q&A, and then also... is getting me really stoked about feeling like we're finally rounding the corner on getting close to ready to release some of these episodes. So enjoy.
And so, when I received the call at my space station, I beamed to Earth, where I encountered Tony Stark's reckless and threatening remarks to the good Mr. Batman. I wish I could tell you more. I wish.
Do you believe this fella? He's the definition of an illegal alien.
Shh. Not cool, dude.
Captain Rogers, I'm gonna have to ask you to hold your tongue, or I'll hold you in contempt of this courtroom. Now, if there is no further commotion, may the council please call its next witness to the stand.
Your Honor, the people of Gotham City call Tony Stark to the stand. Mr. Stark, would you care to present your side of the story?
I'll tell you what happened. The Justice League over here did a fantastic job of botching a perfectly simple bust. I was onto that cat burglar, that very sexy cat burglar for the record. That's sexy with 2 X's. When Orphan Boy over here couldn't deal with me catching some tail.
That's a lie.
Gee, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you invented the truth.
Just don't.
With all due respect, we greatly appreciate the help that the Avengers are offering, but one thing to consider...
Nobody asked you, Smallville.
I'm getting very angry. Oh no.
We get it. You're always angry. Order! I do declare I will have order in this courtroom.
He controls all with that hammer. I want it!
So yeah, that is scene 5 from the show. It's the first scene, I think, of the second episode. First or second scene of the second episode. Sam says, "I love you, Daddy." I love you too, Sam, if you're still watching. Thank you. So yeah, this one was, again, is a really cool practice zone for doing these kind of phonetic mouth movements. I won't get too crazy deep into it now because maybe it'll be something that I can do an actual in-depth tutorial on at a later time. But I just want to show a little bit about the process in bringing these all together. So let's go over here to my screen share. So it all starts with building up these kind of phonetic mouth shapes in Illustrator is where it begins for my process. And other animators have like a little bit of a different way of doing this, but this is what I found most efficient, and then also gave me the most flexibility to, again, you really use these mouths to kind of accentuate the various characters that we have in the show. So it starts with building up these different 11 shapes for the different sounds that we make as we talk. And they're labeled as such in here. So I basically go and I have a background layer that I paint these on top of, but I do them all by hand. And everybody sees me like looking in cameras and making weird faces to try to get the shape right, ooh. And then again, I also wanted to do unique things, like we wanted to have Thor talk out of the side of his mouth, so we could really actually make it look like that as we built up these different shapes. But this process I have to go through and do for every character that I want to have a unique design to their mouth. So it takes me maybe about an hour and a half to 2 hours to make all of these shapes for one character. So you can imagine times all of the characters in that scene, that can definitely add up. From there, I bring the mouth shape into Character Animator. Now, Character Animator has this cool tool where you can actually build... it can mimic shapes based off of the audio and stuff that it has coming in. So I feed it both the audio and a transcript of the footage. And it helps build up the actual phonetic shape. And then I can also go through and I can do some tweaks if I need to change anything out. But once they added the feature of accepting the transcript in addition to the audio, it does actually a really good job. And then so basically I render this out as just a blank. It's just a mouth on transparency. From there, I pull the shot into After Effects. And this is where there's a lot of steps of what I do. First, I need to... first, I basically have to remove the mouth. So I go through and I do what's called masking it out. I have stuff that tracks along and will track along and remove the mouth shape. Then I have to put... Or actually, I can take off layers here so we can see. So yeah, there's the mouth shape on top. So you can see, like, I have to actually remove this piece behind. We have to digitally fill in the behind it so that we don't see the mouth behind it. Then I actually track the eyes as the characters move around so that there's a sense of where things need to be in place. Yeah, Hitchhikers, it is really cool. It used to only use audio, and so that I had to do a lot more to correct it, but now that it takes the written stuff and the audio and combines it, it's so accurate, it's really nice. But yeah, so if I were to go in and show this piece by piece, basically we have to remove the background of the mouth. Then we put this on. I have the motion tracked, and then the mouth actually gets tracked along to the character. And then I have to go in and do like a little bit of cleanup And then just to make sure it all looks seamless, I also do some things like I add noise on top of this. Of course, even though these are high resolution pictures, there is a subtle grain to them, especially if we shot at a higher ISO. So I'll go through and replicate that grain over top of the elements that I put in, and then I'll also apply some blur. I'll also apply some blur to make it match. Like sometimes the characters move out of focus a little bit. We didn't quite pull focus correctly on some of these frames. And so I will try to make sure that there's just some basic blur on there to match that. So it's a pretty involved process. While I'm working on that, that's also where I do all of the cropping to get it into a 16:9. We shot this at close to what would be a 5K resolution, so we're cropping in on a lot of the scenes. But this will still be all full 4K when it's finished. And it's also here in After Effects that I would do any kind of like other accents or effects that I'm doing. But you can imagine for the scene, it was a pretty big process to get through all these. But the cool thing is that now I have the mouths done for almost all of the Justice League versus Avengers, the Justice League and the Avengers. And then I also have, I've also just done this process a bunch of times, so it gets easier and easier. And then the last observation that is just kind of funny about it is that I started experimenting with this phonetic style of the mouths, as you saw in the scene that I showed earlier on the rooftop. I started experimenting with this, I think it was back in 2019 or 2020 is what I saw. And so the technology has actually gotten significantly better. So like the process that I go to remove the mouths in the background uses a lot of like, Adobe's like content aware fill capability and stuff like that. And it's improved so much that it's made the process get faster and faster, as well as like the improvements in character animator that I was talking about with, interpolating the shapes. And so it's been cool because I feel like I'm in a good grind in terms of being able to crank these out relatively quickly. So my dad asks, what is my favorite part of the process? That's hard to say. Whatever I'm working on, this, besides hanging out with Esme, of course, this is one of my very favorite, just animation in general is one of my very favorite ways to spend my time. And so anything that I'm working on is a lot of fun. I think the hands-onness of the animation, and creating something cool that, just lived in my head up to that point, I think is a really cool thing. But I also, there is a piece of, especially when we're building complex stuff like this, that getting it all to come together is also a really cool moment. And so when I see the edit part of the editing process where I really get to start to see the results of everything come together, is a ton of fun as well, especially in like the action sequences that you're just filming these like little clips at a time, and then you start to put it all together, to really get the vision out of how it's intended to look is a really rewarding process. So sorry, another long answer, but probably the actual animation if I had to boil it down to just one part, but I really enjoy it all. And then like the payoff of how it all comes together and comes out in the end is like the best dopamine hit. So it's my geeky thing. I love it. Well, that's about all I have to show off today. I appreciate everybody hanging out and looking at some clips with me. Thank you for bearing with me at the beginning. I'm still figuring out how this whole I'm still figuring out how this going live process works. So I'm working out all the kinks. I appreciate you hanging out with me. My plan is to do one of these live streams on every fourth Friday of each month, so that I can. Excuse me. The smoke here is bothering my allergies, but yeah, I'd really like to do the do a live stream on the fourth Friday of every month to just show off what I'm working on. I mean, some days I might just literally just be editing and just turn it on live so that people can pop in and ask questions. So I'd like to do this more to get you up to date as we go kind of down the home stretch on the show here. And, I'd really like to maybe name a release date in the coming months. So stay tuned, and I will have much more to show off. But thank you very much for hanging out. Let me know if there's any final questions. Of course, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you'll know when I am going live and posting some of these smaller scale clips that I have in the works. And yeah, I think we will wrap it up there. So the one other order of business, I guess, before I go is that I did promise that we would, we would give away the original Lego Batman, which this is, I can't believe it's an 18-year-old figure now. But we would say we were going to give that away to my favorite question. So I have to say I really loved Hitchhiker's question about favorite pieces of animation. That was fun. Ever since you left that, I've been thinking about it and some of the different parts of my different clips. So I want to get you Hitchhiker's Pie this minifig. So I will shoot you a DM afterwards, and we'll figure out how to get it to you. But thank you very much for posting and being involved with the stream, and for everybody who's been commenting and hanging out. Much appreciated. All right. Have a good Friday, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. And I will do another one of these. Let's see. What's the fourth Friday? We'll be back online on the last day of February. February 28th will be the plan. See you then.